episode 154, IRONMAN Wisconsin with Hanna Grinaker. Welcome to the Pursuit of the Perfect Race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in it for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Welcome back to the Pursuit of the Perfect Race. Today I'm talking with Hanna Grinaker about her recent race at IRONMAN Wisconsin that took place on September 9th, 2018. She had a time of 10 hours and 8 seconds. She had a time of 10 hours, 8 minutes, 33 seconds, which qualified her for Kona this year. This was her first Ironman, believe it or not. The temperature on race day this year was 49 and 69, or 49 and rose to 69 degrees, and the water temperature was 72 degrees. Welcome to the show, Hanna. I look forward to hearing about your race at IRONMAN Wisconsin.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
You're welcome. So, what made you want to do a full at Wisconsin?
Well, I ran collegiately at University of Wisconsin-Madison in 2000, from 2006 to 2011. So it was a little bit of a coming home. In 2016 was actually my first year of triathlon. And ever since then, I kind of felt like I was eventually going to move to that like super long course, but it wasn't until 2018 that I actually felt really ready for it.
Nice. So did you have an idea of that you wanted to do it last year, going into this year?
You know, last year was kind of an interesting year for me. I competed early in the year, but towards the middle to the end, I kind of felt like I was getting a little bit burnt out from the sport, to be honest. So thinking back to last summer, I truly didn't even know that I was going to compete this year because really? I felt like ready to all right, I had my fun in the first year, but I don't know if this is something that I want to continue to pursue. And it really wasn't until the late fall, like heading into the winter, where I started getting that love again back. But it took like this kind of weird, 6 to 8 month period where I really wasn't sure that I was going to keep doing triathlon. So it honestly though, it took me going to that low spot where I really wasn't sure what I was enjoying to really appreciate what I have now. So this year was all about having fun. Rather last year towards the beginning, it felt much more, I felt much more pressure, and it really wasn't pressure from anybody else, but for me, like it was only coming internally. And so stepping into this year, it was like a completely different mindset that helped immensely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So whenever you actually wanted to get back into triathlon a little bit, why did you go all the way to the long course rather than just sticking with the Olympic and sprints and stuff?
Yeah, I felt like I almost needed to not just dip my toes into that water. Like I needed to shove myself off the deep end. Like I truly needed to dive in, just to kind of get out of that funk. And that's really what it took, and it worked.
Wow. Now, what was your goal for this race? Did you know that you wanted to actually just go out there and have fun, enjoy it? It's going to be an automatic PR no matter what, right?
Yeah, I should be honest. I'm never going to a race with just I don't think I would ever truly be happy walking away from something being like, oh, I gave it my best effort and that was so fun. I truly when the gun goes off or you dip into the water and you start your watch, game on. So I knew just based off of how my races had gone up until now, I was ready for something, big. But at the same time, there's so much that can happen in an Ironman that I'm I've never done this before. I've done super long endurance events, so I knew that I could do it. But there was so much outside of my control that I didn't know how that would play into the day. And so my true goal, always, okay, let's just finish this thing is for sure. But I knew I could be somewhere within the realm of 10 hours. So barring all disaster, I knew that I could do it. So it was basically just making sure I executed basically.
Okay. Super long endurance events that you've done before?
Well, yeah. So last fall I did a 50K trail race. So it actually ended up being 32 miles, on the Superior Hiking Trail. It for sure felt like the Blair Witch Project. You look and there's trees everywhere. You have no idea where you're at. So that took about 6 hours because it started pouring in the middle of the race. So it was just basically like a mudslide, and I didn't have trail shoes. I had regular running shoes, which was very, very dumb in hindsight. So that was one thing that I knew. And I told myself actually when I did that, I was like, if I'm doing an Ironman, I am basically only halfway through, and I just, I finished this thing. And then earlier this spring, I did it was kind of more of just like a fun ride, but me, my boyfriend, and then one of our best friends, we did 150 miles on our fat bike in one day, and that took like 9.5 hours.
Gosh.
So, yeah. So I knew that I could do it. Like I knew that I could sign up for this and do it. There was no question whether or not. It was basically like, can I do it to the capability that I'm hoping for?
Wow. So when did you actually decide to pull the trigger and do it then?
Well, so I told myself when I was like looking at the website last year, and I knew that if you signed up for this like first tier or whatever, you could make installment payments, because Ironman is a big investment. So
it's about $1,000.
Like, oh, for sure. Yeah. So, I was like hovered over the submit button for like 2 weeks, and I would like enter all my information, and then I would be so close to hitting submit, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready. So then I would go back, and then I'd keep thinking about it. And then finally, like, I just like told myself, I'm like, you gotta just close your eyes and touch the button. So then I just hit submit last December, and I was like, well, all right, well, I guess I'm doing this.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So going into this race, how was your training?
Well, there really wasn't a rhyme or reason to my training. I didn't have a coach. My boyfriend is a very accomplished triathlete himself. So he would give me like some guidance, because he's been like the biggest like inspiration and motivator for me. So he was able to kind of give me some like tips on swimming and tips on running, which as a collegiate runner, I was so bullheaded to really accept any of that advice, because I'm like, no, I know what I'm doing, when all of a sudden I started getting all these injuries. So he was like, you know what? Like, I know you're good at running, but your form is actually really sucky. He didn't say those words, but my form isn't great. So even if I had put a lot of miles in, there was still some work that I could do. So my real goal, rather than thinking about like specific workouts at specific times and all this periodization and whatever it is, I'm like, I'm just going to make it simple. I'm going to try to swim frequently and consistently, and same for the run. So as long as I can get like short, frequent workouts, I'm good. And then for the bike, like, I'm going to keep doing my fat bike because I like it. It makes me strong. And then I'm just going to do some long rides in the weekend. And that's basically all I did.
Wow. So if we take a look at your training overall, and we had to divide it up into 2 buckets, one bucket being intense workouts and one bucket being easy workouts, how much would be in each bucket?
And that's so hard for me to know or say. And that's the thing that I'm kind of wanting to try to dial in for next year, because as triathletes, I think so many of us get caught in this like, all right, I'm hitting zone 3, like gray, moderate zone, where it's like kind of hard, but not. And so I really need to figure out like, how do I push that high intense, like that upper echelon? And how do I really dip into that easy? And I would say most people probably fall into the bucket of like not necessarily not being able to push that really high end, but not being able to really step off the gas. So that's something I'm trying to figure out a little bit. And maybe hiring a coach is the next step.
Right, because if you think of it, there is that in between the buckets of, well, I'm not really going easy, but I'm not really going hard, and it's not really a good zone to do most of your training in.
No, it's not, and that's probably where I fall most. Yeah, so that's something I got to figure out. But either way, like looking back on the season, I don't know that I could pick anything that I would have changed. Just because it was fun. Like, it was fun. And I raced a lot. Like, well, I don't know. I did 3 Olympics or 2 Olympics and 3 half irons. And so I wouldn't change what I did just because it was a blast. But I think that there's things moving forward that I can definitely improve.
Okay.
If I want to keep making progress.
Right. Now, if we take a look at your training, what was your longest swim, bike, and run workouts?
Longest run was 13 miles. I did that twice, and both of them were in races. So that's definitely where I could utilize some more work, because I got to 13 miles at Madison, and I was like, oh, okay, like I'm definitely ready to be done. Most people would, but like I think At that point, it was basically just kind of like suck it up and slog it through. Longest bike was that 150 miles on my fat bike, but it's not like those were frequent. I did frequent century rides. Longest swim was probably like 4,500 yards.
Wow. Now, were you doing bricks in training?
Yeah, we would do like our century ride, and I would hop off the bike and do like 3 miles. But it wasn't often.
Okay. Now, what kind of nutrition are you using in all of this training?
Yeah, and that's something, you're going to probably shake your head, or most people are going to be like, seriously? So I'm actually a registered dietitian. Not certified in sports nutrition, but that is something that I'm always tinkering with, because as a runners, I'm going to call all runners out. They are truly not great about nutrition, at least not at the collegiate level when you're running like 4 and 5K or 6K in cross country. Like, you do not need gels and all that stuff when you're running that amount. Like, you can get away with it. And in college, like, I would like wake up and do like a 2-hour run, like off of a banana. I mean, it was ridiculous what you can get away with. So then when I got into multi-sport, it was like, oh, people like eat during this stuff. So it was like the whole first year I was like wrapping my brain around that. So I'm still trying to like figure all of that out, and kind of figuring out what works for me. And so like, for what I've used on the bike, I really do like, Stroop waffles. I like Cliff Blocks. So I kind of use a combo of that and just making sure I'm staying on top of hydration and salt intake too.
Okay. So
yeah.
You said that you want to hit about 250 calories an hour. Is that about what you want to do in training as well?
Yeah, that's something, again, I'm not awesome about practicing nutrition during training, because it's really like, I don't know. It's kind of like when me and my boyfriend do our century rides, we always do those together. We'll stop at a gas station at like 30 miles, and then it gets 60 miles, and it's kind of like, oh, I'll just get like a Coke there. Well, it's not like you can stop at an Ironman at a gas station and get a Coke,
Oh, you could.
Yeah, you could. I guess you could.
Just exit the course and enter the course at the same spot, and you're good, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that would work so well for my goals in mind, but yeah. So those are things that I feel like I'm still kind of like a novice in that way. I think it's bringing a little bit more like professionalism and intensity to my training that I think was a little bit lax on.
Okay. Now, with your training, were you doing a lot of strength training as well?
Nope, none.
None.
No, no. These are all like tools, like in a tool basket. I definitely want to try to utilize, but I was like, you know what? Like, I'm getting a workout with my arms in the pool, or like strength on the bike. And so I just kind of had that mentality. Truly, just honestly, this season, I didn't want to be super calculated with anything. I just really wanted to bring the fun back.
Wow.
So that's what I did.
So going into this race, did you do any workouts that really gave you the confidence to go into this race where you're like, okay, I'm ready now?
I felt pretty good about the swim. I did an open water swim event in Bayfield, Wisconsin. So we just like swam across Lake Superior. I mean, it's like 2.5 miles, I think. So that was the equivalent of what an Ironman would be. So that gave me some good confidence to be like, all right, like, yes, you can definitely swim that distance and come out and feel decent enough to get on a bike. And I was actually very confident in my bike as well. We've done several long rides, and I felt super consistent on my energy, felt strong. The only thing I was worried about was the run, and that was because of my injury issues and previous history. It was most important to me that I showed up to the line healthy, rather than putting in all this volume, getting to the line, and not actually being able to complete the race because of an injury. So the run, I didn't have a lot of confidence. So that at that point, I was just thinking, well, okay, well, as long as I'm healthy, I can do it. Like, I'll get through it. It just might not be the result I was hoping for. And at Madison, overall, I'm super ecstatic about how it went, qualifying for Kona. That's awesome, but there's a lot of work I could make up on the run. So that's kind of the next thing I'm kind of hoping to dial in.
That makes sense. Now,
yeah.
If we take a look at your training, what do you think the most hours you trained in 1 week was?
The most hours? Probably like 15.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're not working or training, or racing? What are you doing?
um, Probably sleeping and eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, reading books. I mean, it's very like training is a huge piece of like the fun. Like we make our vacations and do like training stints there, like whether we're biking or skiing or whatever it is. So outside of that, yeah, maybe doing a little bit of art here and there because I'm kind of a creative mind. But other than that, not a whole lot. It's pretty simple.
Wow. So what do you do for work?
Yeah. I'm a registered dietitian at a smaller gym within the Minneapolis area. So I meet one-on-one with clients, ranging really from pretty much all like aspects of life. So whether that's, a female in her 40s looking to lose a little bit of weight versus someone in their 60s who's extremely overweight and wanting to lose more, whether that's a 30-year-old looking to put on more muscle. I mean, so I'm really looking at a lot of different people and helping them kind of clean up different areas and whatever their goals are.
Wow.
Yeah.
So knowing that you're training 15 hours a week, you have a full-time job, a boyfriend, and you want to sleep and read and do artsy things, how big of an issue is balancing the life, work, and training for you?
Oh, man. Balance, I don't think anybody figures that out. That's kind of like chasing the elusive butterfly, but I think that's what's special about it. I think everything's going to be a little bit topsy-turvy. But for, the more you do it, the more you just kind of make it work. But I mean, I shouldn't talk. My boyfriend's a resident and he makes it work. He's his 4th year residency. So I think if you're wanting anything, whether that's like putting time into your family or putting time in your training, you can make it work.
That makes sense. Now, with your training, did you do like a traditional taper of 3 weeks or a 2-week taper? What does this look like for you?
Yeah, I definitely lowered my volume. I did a half Ironman 2 weeks to the day before Madison. So after an half iron, I mean, your volume's going to naturally be lower just because you're recovering from a race. So I kind of use that as like the start of my taper.
Which half did you do?
Superior Man.
Nice. How'd it go?
Good. Yeah. Yeah. I went 4:32 there. The swim was about 500 yards long. So that was kind of annoying. So it would have been nice to have a true Ironman half iron distance just to see what the time would have been. But, overall, yeah, it was good to kind of get some of the kinks out leading into Madison. Cause in a big race like that, I mean, you can build that up so much to the point where you kind of get in your head a little bit. Like you start creating fake injuries and like everything becomes an issue when it really isn't.
Right.
And so that was definitely something that I think helped take the edge off for me a little bit.
Okay. Now, you talked a little bit about your injuries in training. What does this look like for you? What happened?
Yeah, I think it does lead a lot back to my form. So I'm still working on it. I used to be more of like a heavy runner, like I would land heavy, kind of like forcing it more, being a little bit tight in my shoulders or rotating too much in my shoulders, or even overstriding. And all of those things added up. I mean, if you have anything that's misaligned, whether it's your hips or whatever it is, you have improper shoes, I mean, that could lead to an injury pretty quick. So I just really tried to focus on more short, frequent runs because when I feel like, when I'm fading in a workout or when I'm losing that energy, that's when my form really starts to deteriorate. So I was really just focusing on, all right, like I'm going to run for 30 to 35 minutes so that when I'm running, I'm putting all of that energy and focus towards my form.
Okay, so when you say a short run, what does a short run look like for you?
Like 4 to 5 miles.
Okay, so 35, 40 minutes-ish?
Yeah, probably closer to that, like 28 to 35.
Okay, so you're going pretty quick.
Yeah, I would say most of my runs were probably, sub 7 for sure.
Wow. I can't maintain a sub 7 that long. At least not right now. Not right now.
Yeah, well, I wish I was like some of the pros and I could just keep that pace for the full marathon. Maybe one day. We'll see.
And you saw the marathon world record, right?
Oh gosh,
Like
I know.
38 a mile.
I know. He's incredible. So awesome.
Wow. Now, when did you start traveling up to Madison?
Before the race. Okay, so I went Thursday with a couple of my friends who are also doing the race.
Okay. Did you get like an Airbnb or a hotel? What does this look like?
My aunt actually lives in Madison.
Nice.
So I was able to stay with her just outside the city.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
I know you've done 70.3s and you've probably done a marathon or two, if I had to guess.
No flat marathons.
No
No.
flat marathons. So you've done a 50K, just no marathon.
Right.
Okay. Okay, that's weird. I haven't heard of anybody make that jump, but okay. So how was your initial impression of the Ironman Village here?
So, I'd actually been a part of the event a few times, even though I hadn't competed. So when I was running at UW, I actually did volunteer for the event a couple of times and then just would watch from my dorm room. And then actually, in 2016, I went to Kona because my boyfriend had qualified in 2015 at Madison, and we went in 16 to Kona. So I was pretty familiar with how all of that would work. So honestly, when I was going there, I didn't want to get too hyped up for the race. Like, I'm like, I really just want to keep this like it's a hometown race and like it's not going to be a big deal. Because I didn't want to get too much in my own head. So I really didn't spend a ton of time just kind of like going through all of the whole setup. I just wanted to like get in, get my stuff, get out, and then just kind of chill.
Wow. Now, the day before the race, what is this day like for you?
So the day before, what ended up being a little bit busier than I was hoping, just because got up, tried to do a little bike, tried to do a little run, and then went to breakfast, and then brought my bike to the check-in. And then before I knew it, it was like 3:00 in the afternoon. And I was like, oh man, I gotta like go home and I've gotta get all my stuff ready for the morning and I gotta eat and all this stuff. So it felt like the day went really, really fast. I think just because I wanted it to go slow. Like I wanted it to be like almost like putting up this big event that I knew was looming.
Wow. So from a nutrition standpoint, are you trying to get in certain meals this day?
Again, I think like moving forward, I'd want to practice that a little bit more. I just knew that I wanted to get most of my calories in the front half of the day, or at least just focus on getting a really big breakfast and then having smaller snacks throughout.
So what kind of breakfast did you have?
I had pancakes.
Pancakes the day before the race.
Uh-huh.
Did you have more than you normally would?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, with maple syrup and everything. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Did you have a normal sized dinner or a smaller dinner?
It was normal. We had pizza.
Pizza.
Yeah. Yep. Went in Wisconsin.
Yeah? Wow.
Yeah.
So you check your bike in, get everything ready there. Did you have any issues with the bike the day before the race?
No. Nope.
Okay.
It was smooth sailing.
Now, what kind of bike are you using?
A P5.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. I'm very lucky. Yeah.
You don't know what kind of wheels you have.
No, I know they're Zip, but I don't know like what whatever you called that was.
The depth of the wheels. Do you have a disc? Do you know what a disc is?
You should edit this out.
It's okay. Now, whenever you started getting in bed the night before the race, did anxiety hit you any?
Actually, I had more anxiety in the couple of weeks leading up, like, just here and there. The night before, it really wasn't, it wasn't there. Like, it was more of like, all right, you're doing this, you're going to get through it, like, it's going to be awesome. So it was more of just kind of a mixture of, like, excitement. However, I did look at my watch several times throughout the night, like, oh, is it time? Like, is it time to get up? So I definitely felt like, I didn't sleep well the night before, like I normally would.
Wow. A little bit more about the nutrition the day before. Is there a reason from your work that you normally do of why you wanted to taper your nutrition throughout the day?
And it didn't end up working out that way, but I just knew that I wanted to get more calories in like 24 hours before the race or somewhat similar, like just kind of getting more nutrition like that front part of the day, because I normally don't eat like that gigantic of a breakfast, but I just knew that I kind of wanted to top off like any glycogen stores that might be there.
Okay. So you get up on race day. What time was your alarm set for?
Oh, we just kind of slept in. I think we got up at like 8. Yeah, we slept a little bit. Yeah, I didn't get up and do like a specific thing or anything.
Okay. Well, then on race day, what time did you get up?
Let's see here. That was probably like just before 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever you get up on race day, what's your morning ritual like before you leave your aunt's house?
So got up, I showered just to kind of help wake me up. And then I made some oatmeal, and then had some coconut water, put some peanut butter in my oatmeal. And it was, this is funny. My boyfriend took this like hilarious picture of me, like sitting at this table where it like literally, you know, you're like forcing food in your face and you're just like, this is awful because you're nervous. And then you're having to eat all these calories right away in the morning. It's literally torture. But yeah, so after that, kind of got my stuff together. And then we just started driving towards the capital. So it was pretty simple in the morning because at that point, I mean, you have everything checked in. So it's not like you're really needing to like gather your bike and all of this other stuff. So that's nice about that, those types of events.
Nice. Now, whenever you got to the transition area, did you have to worry about parking or anything?
Oh, they just dropped me off. So then I was able to go in, pump up my bike tires, like literally using like your cell phone flashlight because the transition area was so dark. So once I got that, then I just went back into the terrace and just kind of hung out until we had to go down to the swim start.
Back in the terrace?
Yeah. Yep. So that's where all of the transition areas were, like right at the Monona Terrace. So you actually like run through and were able to grab your bags and then go into like the separate men or women's tents to like put on your shoes or your helmet or whatever it was. So that was kind of nice. I mean, if anybody listening is kind of on the fence about whether or not they want to do an Ironman, Madison is definitely the one to consider.
Really? What do you think makes it better?
Well, like I should talk. I don't have anything to compare it to, but just in terms of like what I've heard from other people and just the amount of support from all of the volunteers, and it's just an amazingly well run event.
Wow.
Yeah.
So after you leave the transition area, you're pumping your wheels up to about 110 or so.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing in between the time that you leave transition area and the time you get ready to get in the swim corral?
So I just hung out with my aunt, and Sean, my boyfriend. We were just hanging out in the terrace, just kind of talking, and, I put on my wetsuit. I did body marking, so I had to go do that. And then I just walked slowly down to the swim start. And then you just kind of self-seed yourself. So they have signs as to like what you would predict yourself coming out of the water at. They didn't have anything less than an hour, and I knew that I wouldn't go under an hour, but I wanted to get in that like 1 to 105 bracket because I figured that that's something that I'm capable of doing. But everybody was up there, so we were like sardined like way at the front because the women pro field went first, and then they were doing waves beyond that.
Okay, so with the swim start, were you and Sean together getting in the water?
Oh, sorry, he didn't compete. He was there watching.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he was my Sherpa this year, which has actually never happened in a triathlon yet in our relationship.
Wow.
So that was pretty special.
That's pretty cool then.
Yeah, it was very cool.
So whenever you got ready to actually get into the water, you're about 10, 15 minutes out from actually starting your race and your day. What was your mindset at this point going into the race?
That was the one thing that I wrote down as like a takeaway is I felt so calm when I was right before the swim, which I really wasn't anticipating. And it was more of just kind of like ready for the long day ahead. So the mindset was really just, I don't really think I was thinking anything beyond just where I was in that moment. Like I wasn't thinking about what I was going to do in the swim or the bike or the run. It was purely just like, all right, what am I seeing in this moment? And just taking a few deep breaths.
Okay. Now, going into the race, did you want to hit certain data or power numbers or metrics or cadence or anything like this?
I don't train with power, so I have no idea. I didn't have any concept of where it was basically just like, how do I manage my energy where I'm pushing hard, but not digging too much deep into the well, which is hard to know if you've never done an Ironman before and you've never, like, you haven't run over 13 miles in training. So this was kind of unknown territory for me. So I was kind of going on blind faith, to be honest.
So you were going off of complete field in?
Yeah, I do have a bike computer that tells me my speed. So it's not like I was totally blind. And then it will, of course, tell you like direction and stuff. But I didn't know anything in terms of power.
So did you have heart rate there as well or anything like that?
No.
No heart rate,
Mm-mm.
completely going off of RPE. So did you have an idea of how much or what percentage of your RPE you want to be at on the course? Hey, everybody. I just want to say thank you for listening to the podcast. And I just want to let you know that I've enjoyed having so many people on this show, and I couldn't really do it without your support. Thank you so much for tuning in, listening, and being a part of what I'm doing. If you would, take a few moments to leave me a review over on iTunes. It would help me out tremendously, and enjoy the show. Completely going off of RPE. So did you have an idea of how much or what percentage of your RPE you want to be at on the course?
Nope. No, none of that.
Wow. Okay. So you were literally just going out there doing about as hard as you could in each moment then, I would assume?
Yeah, pretty much. It was more of just kind of like sustained effort.
Okay.
So, exercise moderately intensely for a very long time.
That's just crazy now. So you get into the water. How did your swim go for you?
It went well. Yeah. It's crazy because it was probably like 12 to 15 minutes into the race. I had this like overwhelming desire to stop. Really? It was crazy. Yes. It was like, and I knew it was just mental demons. Like it was literally just my mind fighting against my body. So it lasted for probably a couple of minutes where it was like, and I was talking myself out of it. I was like, why are you having these thoughts? That's awful. Like you've got a long day ahead of you. If you're already having this is going to be a rough day. But I tried to just like disassociate from that. So it was more of just, all right, back to your stroke, bring it back to your stroke or your breath or this person who's kicking my face, like right in front of me. So after I got through that muck, and then I got over halfway, I always tell myself that if I can get over halfway to whatever it is, like whether it's in, let's say an interval or if you were to do like a 20-minute bike test or whatever it is, if I can get over halfway, I'm good. But it's getting to that halfway part that's really crappy. So once I looked down at my watch, I saw 2,200 yards. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm good. I've got this. So then the sun was just kind of like shining in my eyes. Couldn't really see anything. Somebody actually like grabbed my ankle and pulled me back, which is kind of odd. But I just kept going, got in, and then it was like made it to the transition or, when you come out of the water, you come into T1. And I looked at my watch and it was like 103 something. I was like, all right, that's good. Like I really had no idea, even from just being in the water a couple of days prior. It was pretty rough. It's pretty rough water. So I was thinking that if I was anywhere between like 105 to 110, that's probably where I would end up, even if that wasn't my goal. So to come out at 103, I was pretty happy.
Wow. So you obviously used a wetsuit for this race. Did you take advantage of the wetsuit strippers here?
I did. Yep, I definitely did. Yeah, and they did a great job.
Wow. Now, I know you have to run up the helix here to get to your bike. How was this for you?
Oh, I think anybody would probably say in the race that that's like a highlight, just because it's so deafening. It's kind of this weird feeling like when you see all these people lining the helix and you know that you're not the first person out of the water, like for sure. Like there's people like right in front of you. And you're like, I'm winning. It has this feeling of just, yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty cool feeling just to have that many people cheering for you.
Wow. So whenever you get to your bike, you have to go get on the bike and then go down the helix on the other side. Yeah. How was this for you?
Yeah, it's kind of like finding your bearings. Just because, it's like you're cold from the water. You're kind of trying to get things adjusted, whatever. So it's like that first 5 minutes, you're kind of getting in your groove. And then after that point, like just setting out for, this is going to be a 5.5 hour kind of trek on the bike.
Wow. So in T1, what were you actually doing in T1? You were there for about 5.5 minutes. Did you have a lot of gear in there? Did you change? What does this look like?
So I would say that T1 is actually pretty quick for that course, just because it's a super long transition. So you're running out of the water, up the helix into the terrace, grabbing your stuff, coming out of the terrace, going all the way. You have to kind of come down and then go back. So it's a pretty long transition. I would say most people, like I was kind of looking at times last year, and like normal time for that would have been like 7 to 8 minutes. So I felt like I actually moved through T1 pretty fast. But yeah, I didn't do anything beyond what I needed to.
Okay. So you just had your helmet and shoes and that was it?
Yep.
No sunscreen?
No sunscreen.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, did you get burnt then?
A little bit. Not bad though. Yeah, this ginger took a chance, but
Wow. Now, did you have like any type of chamois cream that you wanted to use or anything like that?
I wished I would have. Yeah, but I didn't put on any before the swim because I mean, it's probably going to wash off or whatever. But yeah, I definitely wished I would have had some on the bike, and we'll just leave it at that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now then, you get to the bike ride. How's the first 10 miles go before you get to the lollipop versus the stick?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Are you familiar with that?
I am,
Okay.
and I really didn't study the course before. I had done Madison 70.3 the year before, so I knew like Madison's no joke. There's a lot of elevation; it's pretty technical, but I didn't study where I was going or where I would expect, different hills. I didn't even know. I knew that there was like some elevation and they called something or other like Three Sisters or whatever, but I didn't know where it was. So I think looking back, it would have been nice to have a day where I could have gone out and just done a loop or, done the whole course, but it just didn't work. Like it didn't work for the summer. We just couldn't make it there. But overall, like, I don't even remember like specific parts of the bike. It was more of just kind of like, putting your head down and getting through it.
Wow. Now, Did Sean kind of tell you about how to tackle the course from a strategic standpoint? Or did you listen to that if he did?
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, I do listen to what he says, even if he has to tell me like 87 times before. But yeah, I think it was one of those things. He did the course 3 years ago. So I mean, we cycle together all the time. So I think he knew that like, no matter what the course would throw at me, I could handle just because I know that I'm a strong cyclist. And I'll continue, to work on that discipline regardless. But he didn't give me any specifics. No.
Okay. Now, whenever you came out of the transition area to get on your bike and head out, was he there to tell you where you were in the placing at all? Did you want to know that?
Yeah, I think it would, it was helpful to know. He was actually at about mile 40 and then 80 on the bike. So he just stayed in the same spot. He was actually on that first like sister that they call it. So there's like 3 big hills that you climb in a row, and he was on the first one. So he told me at that point.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So from a nutrition standpoint, were you hitting the nutrition plan the way you wanted to?
Yeah, I felt like my energy was managed pretty good on the bike. It's just one of those things when you're eating that much and then you hadn't put in a lot of long runs, it can kind of bite you on the run. And it definitely did for me, just eating that much and not practicing running with all of that nutrition in your stomach. So those are things that I just really want to kind of like dial in moving forward. But that's what's cool about a first Ironman is you're learning all those things.
Right. For the aid stations, how are they on this course?
Oh, they were great. Yeah, I definitely utilized water and Gatorade on the course, and then special needs for bike. I definitely stopped and wasted a little bit of time just kind of refilling things. And then the run, of course, was super great too, and definitely had my fair share of Coke.
Okay. Now, whenever you get towards the later portion of the bike ride, did you see any flats or wrecks or mechanical issues on the course?
A few, not terrible though. I think bike support was amazing during the race to kind of get people on their way pretty fast. So I was just so thankful that I didn't have a mechanical, because that's another thing that you're just not sure of that could potentially be an issue.
Do you know how to change a flat?
No.
So you have been on the side of the road for a little while.
Yes, I would. Yeah, I would. Yep.
So your Kona slot is literally one flat away.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have had a flat and not got a slot. Or
I don't know
something.
the timing of the girl behind me, so I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah, so I don't know how far. I think she was closer to around like 10:30 or 10:40. So I would have had to be. I would have had to be on the side of the road for quite a while. But even then, you're right. Yep, if like those things can make or break a race for sure.
Wow. Now, miles 80, 90, and into 100. Were you facing any demons again coming around from the middle game?
No, I had made up some ground on the amateur who was leading the race, so I actually came into T2 as the like amateur overall leader,
Oh, really?
which was cool. So that kind of gave me some, some positive vibes for sure. And I knew that the gal who was in the back, I don't know how far back, I knew that she was going to be a beast on the run, and she clearly showed that. She had an amazing run, second overall, fastest of the day. So she was pretty untouchable that day for sure.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But mentally, were you having any demons come back and kind of put you in a bad headspace on the backside of the bike ride?
No, no, I didn't feel that on the bike.
Wow. So whenever you start getting ready to get into T2, how was this for you? Were you trying to do anything from a nutrition standpoint or a higher or lower cadence standpoint or anything like that?
Yeah, I definitely tried to kind of lighten the load a little bit in the last couple of miles just to kind of spin my legs out a little bit. That's definitely something that Sean had told me I should do, just so you're spinning your legs out leading into a run. So that's something that definitely helped. And then at that point, just really trying to like get in a little bit more water because it's hard. You can't take in enough hydration that you need on a run. It's just, it's pretty much, I would say for me and for most people, it's pretty impossible just because it's so much jostling. It's hard to get that much hydration.
Okay. Now you get to T2. How does T2 go for you? They take your bike and you're back on top of the helix at this point, right?
Yep. Yeah. So that was pretty quick too. Just got all my stuff, got all my gear, ran right out, and then off for the run. There really wasn't any dilly-dallying at that point either.
Okay. Now, did Sean how was his excitement for you at this point? Because you're number one. I believe you would have a bike escort, right?
Yep, they did. Yep, they took my bike. I had no idea where my bike went at that point. They just, there's like pieces of the race now that you're asking. I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen. But I didn't see him when I came into T2 because he had just gone right to get some bikes, with my aunt and his brother. And they were just going to bike around and cheer me on the run course. So I didn't see them when I came into T2, but I did see my parents.
Okay. So you get out on the run. How does the first 2 miles of the run go for you?
Yeah, it was kind of this feeling like, whoa, this is going to be like a long day. Cause I mean, I've only ever, practiced that 13 miles in a race. I've never done a marathon off a bike. I've never done or a marathon ever. Yeah, you're right. And so I think at that point I was just telling myself like 3 miles at a time, like 3 miles at a time. So I was just taking like 3-mile chunks basically. Just because I knew that would take me about like 22 minutes. And so it was really just kind of like wrapping my brain around those little chunks of time rather than thinking about how long I had. But I didn't walk during the run. So that was good. It was just miles where I had to slow down or use the bathroom or whatever.
Okay. So you had to use the bathroom on the run?
Yeah.
Just once?
A few times.
So you had some stomach issues, maybe?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And I think that's kind of natural when you're, consuming a lot on the bike and then you haven't practiced running a lot, coming off of it. So those are things that, moving forward, I'm going to try to work on a little bit more. Okay.
Do you think it's just something that you had to eat constantly that didn't agree with your system?
I think it did. I think it did agree with my system. I truly do think it's more just training. Yeah.
Okay. Now, whenever you get to the run, how does miles 8, 9, and 10, right before the halfway mark, go for you?
I actually felt pretty good through the half. I was pretty consistent on my pace. I saw more of a decline between like 14, 17. And just kind of feeling like this You were like, all right, I'm just like really ready for this to be done. It was never like hated being out there by any means, but I could just feel myself like the pace start to slow, but you had no response, or like you had nothing left to respond to it. So there's really nothing that you could do to control that pace from falling.
So you were pushing the gas equally, but the pace was still falling.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would say, I mean, if you think like you're pushing a pace, but at that point you look down and you're like, all right, well, that was a 7:45, like, got to pick it up. And it's like, you tell yourself to pick it up, but you're not really picking it up.
That makes sense. So
yeah.
How was the support on the run course?
In terms of
spectators, volunteers, all of it.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, so many people lining the course. And the course is great. Like, you're going down State Street, which is packed with people because there's, restaurants and bars lining it. And then you go through Camp Randall. So
what's Camp Randall?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sure. I forget that you don't know about Madison. That's the football stadium.
Okay.
Yeah, so you actually do a lap on the turf, which is great. I mean, it's incredible. For somebody who went to UW, that's pretty special. So you do that twice. Yeah, but it's all the places that I would run when I was competing there. So it was very nostalgic.
Wow, because you literally had the home field advantage.
Yeah, in some aspects, yes.
Now, I know about Observatory Hill here. It's a little bit of a climb to the top, and it's pretty steep. What does this look like for you?
Yeah, that was definitely rough, but I think that's rough for everybody because it is really steep. That's pretty wicked. I don't remember at what miles it was, but you do climb it twice.
Okay. So did you have an idea of how you wanted to attack the hill like that? So is it like more short, choppy steps, or lean into it, or you want to slow down a little bit, or just run normal pace through this? What does this look like?
I would say, yeah, you kind of want to get that forward lean, like short, quick cadence. And then just not necessarily force the pace up because you don't want to expend yourself too much on a climb. But, just kind of get through it more than anything.
Okay. So on your watch, what are you looking at?
Pace, usually. I usually set it on my Garmin. I set it so it'll tell me, like, the pace that'll come in at that mile rather than, like, the current pace. So it'll kind of tell me as, like, what my predicted pace will be. So at that point, I really didn't have any strong goals in terms of what I wanted to come in at each mile. It was more of just kind of staying consistent with whatever pace I started at.
Okay. Now, aside from the finish line, what was the best part of the run for you?
Oh, man. Probably pieces of running up State Street, just because it's so packed with people. Camp Randall was pretty cool, too. Just because it's so big, but it's empty. Like, the stadium was empty. Yeah, I would say, and well, of course, for sure, the finish, because there's multiple reasons why you could say that, right? You finished. There's your friends and your family are there. You really can't beat the finish line. But that was, other than that, I would say the running along Lakeshore Path, because that's where I would run, frequently as a Badger athlete, and then State Street.
Okay. And what?
And Camp Randall.
Okay. So whenever you think about the race, did you see anything funny on the run course?
No.
Okay.
In terms of
anything. I mean, usually there's somebody out there that has some sign or some spectator that's dressed crazy or something other.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I didn't really see anything too funny, but at that point, there was people that told me that they were cheering, and I'm like, I don't remember seeing you, but I was kind of like, at that point, you're just like kind of not even aware, like unconscious at points.
Okay. So you stopped at your run special needs?
I did not. Well, let's see, did I? Yeah, I must have. Yep, I did. Yep. But I had something called an EFS, like by First Endurance. So it's just like a small, it's almost like if you were to squeeze out 4 gel packets of like a goo and they put it in like one of those like little squeeze bottles, that's pretty much what it is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And did that give you like a little bit of a boost or a kick or anything?
I didn't really find that because at that point, like I was so over anything sweet tasting. Um, so at that point, I didn't even really want it, but I knew I needed it just in terms of calories.
Okay. Now, I know from I was 14 to 17, you were kind of in a bad spot mentally. How was this for you?
Not like it I experienced on the swim. Like there was never ever overwhelming like desire to stop. It was more of just kind of like taking it, breaking it down even further by mile to like minute. Like it was like, all right, get to the next minute, like get to the next minute, or just get to where you're seeing your family or something again. So it was really just breaking it down even to shorter chunks than it was even with just the miles.
Wow. So mentally, was this run hard for you?
Yeah, it definitely was. But I mean, it's hard for everybody, you know? I mean, it's just when you've already been exercising for, you know, almost 7 hours or whatever it was, like that's a long day for anybody.
So how did you pull yourself out of that?
I think it's just kind of taking like, you know, it's not feeling sorry for yourself. Like you signed up for this, you're grateful for being out here. There's a lot of people that I think looking back, they're like, how cool that they did that, or how cool that they're able to like be brave enough to try something like that. So I never really felt like this is, I didn't feel that feeling of this is horrible or I hate this. It was more of like, I'm grateful I get to do this, even if it's kind of miserable right now.
Wow. So a little bit about yourself. Why do you even do long course triathlons to begin with?
Mm-hmm. Oh man. Well, I've always been an endurance athlete, you know, to some extent. Like I started when I was in sixth grade. Um, I feel like it's almost like a little bit spiritual in a sense. Like
Really?
because just because you get like when you're on the line right before a big event like this, it's so vulnerable. Um, just because you're just like cut open raw, like emotionally in something like this. Because it's like when you've exhausted everything physically and mentally you're like shot, like what else do you have to rely on? You know, you start to like think of like a higher power. And so in that case, like I feel like when I'm training for something and then I do races like this, like it just kind of like sets me on a right path. Like everything else feels like it's more in line.
Wow.
You know, it's like when I have that training piece and it's like you're pushing towards the goal, you just feel more motivated everywhere else. Like I want to make my relationship better. I want to make my professional life better because if those things are working really well, I'll for sure race faster. And not saying that I'm only working on those things so I can race fast, but it's like when you're kind of pushing things like in all areas of life and you're trying to make those better, it's just everything feels like it's more in sync.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to several of the EMJ guys, and
Yeah.
it seems like they have rubbed off on you a little bit. Because
Yeah.
not only are they amazing athletes, they're humble, they're kind, and not only do they excel on the course, but
Mm-hmm.
they also excel in their professional lives as well.
Yeah.
I mean, just take, for example, your boyfriend. I mean, he's doing his residency towards his PhD, right?
Actually, physician. So he'll be an anesthesiologist. But yeah, I mean, that group of Everyman Jack athletes, like I have not met one that is a stand-up guy. And there's like 70 athletes on the team. All of them are awesome. And when they go to a race, they all like, even if they haven't like met before in person, they will treat each other like brothers. I mean, that's an incredible group.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So whenever you get to miles 21, 22, and 23, how are you feeling physically? Are you having any pain, cramping, or anything like that?
Yeah, so this is where my foot started to hurt.
Really?
Yeah. My left foot, like right on the top, started to hurt, like kind of on the, you know, like the metatarsal area. And almost to the point where I felt like it was getting almost like you drag it a little bit. I didn't believe that I was doing that. I don't think nobody told me. But yeah, just that constant pounding, that was pretty tough. But other than that, I mean, it was at that point I knew I was going to finish. Like I was like, all right, like no matter what, you're going to be done with this soon. So I didn't really let that hold me back from, or entertaining the idea of this being something that would stop me from finishing.
Okay. So at miles 20 to 23, what's around you? What does this look like for you on the course?
Let's see here. So yeah, I mean, just right before the finish, I mean, there was so many people because people are just starting like their first loop at that point. So Madison's course, you do 2 loops on the run. So there was people that were like literally just starting their day on the run, and this point you're like, all right, like I'm within 20 minutes of finishing and these people have like a few hours left to go. So it's kind of cool just to see like the different levels of like excitement or energy from people coming, because you're either passing people who are like super smiling and happy, or there's some that are just like, you're like, oh man, it's going to be a rough day for you. But it's just kind of cool just to see like all the different people and not really sure like where they were at in their run journey, but just kind of guessing where they're at.
Wow. Now you got passed on the run by someone in your age group, right?
I did. Yep.
What was that experience like for you? Because at that point, you were number 1.
I was, yeah. She passed me around like mile, I think it was like 14 or 15. But she's an incredible runner, very talented, accomplished athlete at Kona, and just a stand-up girl. I mean, so yeah, I have all the respect in the world for her. I was very humbled. I mean, it's not like I went into that thinking that I could like easily beat her. I mean, if anything, I knew that she would be the one that would be probably like on my butt at some point or just crushing me at some point. So, at that point, I was just like, good on her for having this amazing day. She's like definitely deserved it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So the last 2 miles of the run course before you get to the finish chute, what was this like? You were in pain, it seems like?
Yeah. When you get to the finish line, you kind of forget all that stuff because it's like you got Mike Riley talking and you have, the runway and you have all these people in the stands and you have the Capitol up there. So you kind of get blinded by that. I mean, you could probably run with a broken leg at that point. But yeah, I didn't feel pain at that last point. It was just like elation, kind of like, or not even really elation. It was more of like, thank God this is done.
Right. But miles 24 and 25, before you get to that point, how are those? Because
those are fine. Yeah. Cause that the end is really near, so at that point, that was, I didn't feel too much up there.
Okay. Now, the last 800 yards, whenever you make that turn to go towards the finish line, and then you get to where you can almost see the finish line around the corner, what was this like for you, being that this was your first Ironman?
Yeah, that's pretty special. You'll always remember that. There wasn't a lot that I was thinking back. I wish I could kind of go back into my brain at that point just to kind of remember, like, what were you thinking? But yeah, it was just kind of like, just taking it all in. Just kind of this feeling of like accomplishment. Like, yeah, I got this done. Like, there was no disasters. Like, this is, it was just a feeling of just pride, I think.
Wow. So as you approached the finish line, what was this emotion that you were feeling?
Yeah, there wasn't any, like, how some people have like happy tears. Like, I don't feel like I had the energy to even produce that. But it was, just this feeling of like, heck yes. Yeah, we did this. Wow.
So after you finished, what'd you do next?
So I grabbed some pizza not too soon after. So that was good. So I just hung out with my family right at the finish line, which was great. And then after that, we just took a few pictures, kind of giving some hugs. That was such, like, to have my family there, like my parents, my boyfriend, his dad and brother. I couldn't have asked for a better ending to that, just to have my favorite people there.
Wow. Now, after you got done with the race, did you go back and get your bike, or they already get your bike for you? What was this like?
Yeah, so they got my bike. Sean had done that for me. So I didn't even have to worry about that, which was great. And then I just went back to my aunt's house that night. and just was kind of comatose on the couch. I wanted to go back to the finish line just so I could kind of experience that and cheer on the people in the last little bit. But my legs at that point, and for sure, just like your appetite, you're just like so off. I was just like, you know what? I just need to like chill on the couch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, the next day, you get to go and get your finisher jacket like everybody else, right?
I didn't actually get a jacket, but we went to the awards.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you go to the awards ceremony. How was this?
Yeah, that was, I mean, I had been there in 2015 when Sean got his slot, so I kind of knew how it worked.
Did you know you got a slot at this time?
Not at the beginning. I was still kind of on the fence. We were trying to think about whether or not we would, because it was like, all right, I was like second overall amateur. I'm like, I should have a spot, but you're never really sure. And so it wasn't until the very end of the awards where they had actually, somebody had told us that they had like listed out how many different slots there was for each age group. So it was at that point that I found out.
So what was it like whenever you saw the number 2 there versus the number 1?
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that, I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was like such a feeling of like, yeah, it was this mix of like, I knew that at some point, like I would love to try to do that. I just didn't know if it was like something I would actually do. You know, I think I always knew that I was something I was capable of. But to, have it come to fruition and, on your first try, like I couldn't ask for, really anything better.
Wow.
Yeah.
So whenever they actually call your name to get the slot, what was this like?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was fun because you go up, they give you that lei, they give you, once you sign up and you pay for it, they give you that coin. Yeah, that's pretty special. But at the same time, it's over a year away. So it's just, you're kind of like this, like you like lay down $1,000 and then you're like, all right, see you in a year. So, I mean, no, it was super awesome, but it was kind of like a little bit anticlimactic. You know what I mean? Like this big build up and then you're like, all right, like we'll see you later. Wow. But it was pretty awesome. Yeah.
So whenever you actually got done with the race and you look back on it, how well prepared for the race do you think you were?
I think I was as prepared as I possibly could be this year. I don't think I've reached my full potential. And most people could probably say that about themselves, to some degree. But I think just knowing that, I didn't have a plan necessarily, which, some people could say that was actually a positive or a benefit, that I didn't run very much. I didn't know the course well. I hadn't been super dialed in with my nutrition. So there's all these things that I feel like I could have done better, but I was proud of how I prepared. Like, given what I had, I played the cards I was dealt. So overall, I was pretty excited about how it went. Like, I have no, looking back, I have no regrets on anything.
Okay. So what's something that you learned about this experience that you would want to pass on to someone who hasn't done this race before?
Oh, man. Well, it'll be probably the most amazing and miserable thing that you do ever, at the same time. But I wouldn't do it again. It's one of those things like you cross the line and, somebody asks you like, are you ready? Like, would you do this again? And you're kind of like, and then it's literally 10 minutes later and you're like, yeah, I totally would. You kind of have this like pain amnesia. Like you just forget. You forget how bad it sucked in the moment, but you're ready to experience that journey and that like elation of crossing that line and doing something pretty cool.
Wow. So aside from having better time intervals on the swim, what else did Ironman have done to make your race experience better as an athlete?
I truly don't think anything. I wouldn't have asked for anything beyond what they gave.
Wow. Now, I know you got an athlete wristband at this race. Have you cut it off yet?
No, I have not. But is that going to make me look like a total amateur? Maybe. That's okay. I'm an amateur. Yeah, I'm still wearing it.
When will you cut it off?
Yeah, I should do that soon. I don't know. I just kind of forget it's there. I'll cut it off. But It is kind of special. I mean, it's been on there almost 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. I haven't cut it off yet.
So what's next for you? I know you're doing Kona, obviously, but what's next in between now and then?
So I'll do some fat bike races this winter. Definitely love those. I have this most like amazing fat bike. It's great. And that's definitely helped with strength on the bike. Want to do some skiing this winter. I'll do some skiing, not so much downhill. And then leading into next year, I haven't really set the triathlon schedule yet, so I'm not really sure.
Okay. Now, I know you've been in endurance sports since the 6th grade, so I know you obviously have some bucket list races that are obviously not Kona. What are they?
You know, I don't know. Now that, like, you know, doing Kona next year, I don't know beyond that. Like, I haven't really thought about that too much, to be honest. I'd love to do some, like, international racing.
Like what?
Maybe, like, Challenge Roth. Or, I don't know. Yeah, just kind of experiencing, like, or maybe doing, like, you know, riding some stages of the Tour de France. Like, that'd be awesome.
Wow.
So, yeah, doing something like that. I don't know if I would do El Duez, but maybe something.
Something fun.
Something fun. Yep.
Wow. So if athletes that are listening here want to follow you, how can they follow you?
Mm-hmm. Instagram is probably the best. So my handle there is Hanna Grinaker, Hanna. Yeah, that's probably where you can probably find me most publicly. I don't tweet. And Facebook is kind of for most people. So Instagram's the best.
Okay. Well, Hanna, I just want to say thanks for coming on and spending some time with me today. I've really enjoyed it, and I love your bubbly personality. It's wonderful. And I would love to invite you back after Kona next year, if you'd be willing to come
that'd
back
be awesome. Yeah. Will that be like the 400th episode?
Something around there, I'm sure. It might be more than that.
That'd be awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So I only have one more question for you, and it's always my favorite question to ask.
Okay, I'm ready.
What's your definition of a perfect race?
Oh, geez. Man, does it exist? I don't think it exists. Man, the perfect race? Ooh. I would say if you set out a goal and you either match it or exceed it, barring whatever happens along the way.
Do you have a way of measuring that?
Like in terms of meeting or exceeding a goal? Yeah, whether it's, you know, time is so hard with an Ironman, but like, and place is kind of hard too. Oh, geez. You know what? I don't know. Is that answerable? That question?
I don't know.
Maybe. I would say I'm gonna plead the fifth. I don't know. I don't think the perfect race exists, so I don't think he can define it.
You should definitely ask Sean, see what his is.
Okay, I will. Yeah, you would probably have this like most amazing, well-scripted answer, and I'd be like, oh, I should have had that in the moment.
Exactly. Well,
yeah.
Hanna, thank you so much for spending some time with me. I've enjoyed it, and I wish you the best at Kona next year, and I look forward to following you along the way.
All right, cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.